I have no idea who's here, but welcome to this gameplay slash lecture slash conversation about the Yakuza series, focused especially on the ideas of game space and game environments. So for those of you that are not my students, welcome. For those of you that are also my students, welcome as well to this nice event. So the screen you see there is a screen of Yakuza 0, which is the first game we're playing tonight. So we're playing Yakuza 0, then we're playing Yakuza Kiwami 2, and then Yakuza 4. So we're skipping some of the entries, but I want to give you just a general introduction about what the hell is the Yakuza series. So it is a franchise that was developed by the Ryuga Gotoku studios in Japan, and that's actually how the game is known back in Japan as well. You can see there in the corner that it is published by Sega, and the company, the studio that developed it, is also part of Sega. Now the name of the franchise in the western side of the world is Yakuza. In Japan is Ryuga Gotoku, and if you are playing Yakuza, you notice that they actually, I can't recall any moment that they refer to themselves as Yakuza. In fact, the term that you hear the most is the word Gokudo, which means the extreme path, which is how they refer to themselves as part of these crime syndicates and etc. So that's the kind of word you hear more, Gokudo, instead of Yakuza, or Boryukodan as well. Yakuza 0 and all of Yakuza games is a AAA franchise. The main series has already 7 games, ranging from Yakuza 0 to Yakuza 6, and all of them feature Kazuma Kiryu as the main protagonist. Recently, they also developed a new Yakuza game, Yakuza Like a Dragon, that starts telling the story of a different character. It's the 8th game of the series. They also have some spin-offs of Yakuza that are set in historical Japan, but they use the same character designs of the main Yakuza cast as well, which is quite funny. But let's get to our actual streaming, starting with Yakuza 0. So let's take a look at... Yes, this is the right file, I just needed to check how much money did I have. So this guy you see here is Kazuma Kiryu, our main character. And Yakuza 0 is set way back in the past. And here I'm in my office. I own a real estate company. But let's go outside. So Yakuza 0 is set in the 80s, in more specifically 1988 Japan, in Tokyo, in a fictional city called Kamurocho, in a fictional district called Kamurocho. Yakuza 0 is the first game that was released, is the first game if you look at it chronologically, but it was not the first game that was released ever in the Yakuza franchise. It's actually a prequel that was released much after, that acted basically as a prequel to the series, but also as a warm-up to the release of Yakuza 6 at the time, after about 4 or 5 years without any new Yakuza game coming out. At the same time that Yakuza 0 came out, soon after we also had the first 2 remakes of the Yakuza series. So they did remakes of Yakuza 1 and Yakuza 2 into Yakuza Kiwami 1 and Yakuza Kiwami 2. So it can be quite confusing at times, the whole Yakuza storyline of publication, but it's quite interesting as well. Anyway, first I just want to stroll through this 80s, late 80s kind of Tokyo scenario, just to show you a little bit what I'm talking about here. You can kind of tell that things are old. Cars are old, not too old because I was born already, but they were old enough. It's interesting as well because the game uses as save points different phone booths, which were of course quite common at the time, as we did not have mobile phones or anything at the time. But the city is quite interesting. So here, the place that I'm standing at right now is called the Theater Square. And because of course it's surrounded by several theaters, several cinemas. We have the Apollo Bowling Alley there, but here we have the Coma Stadium, which is also a cinema. Over here another one. At the back there we have some more. Tokyo Popuri. Then we have another cinema here and game centers and etc. So it is the theater square, is the entertainment area of Tokyo actually. We also have a Sega arcade here, which kind of builds up nicely with the whole theme of Japan. Japan is still quite big in terms of arcades, and Sega still has several different arcades in the city. And fun enough, you can actually join and enter these arcades and play games at these arcades as well. So let's play some of the old games that they had. You can try to catch some toys here. It's much easier in this game than in real life. But you can also play some different games. I think the one that is available in this arcade is this one over here, Space Harrier. So you have also this game within a game that also helps set up the environment, the aura, the idea of this game, that is to enjoy the space you are at and just live this city to its fullest. Has anyone that is watching ever played Yakuza? It's on your playlist, yes. Yeah, you should get to it. It is a bit addicting, gotta say. So it is quite addicting as a game. Oh gosh, it's been a while since I played this. It's quite addictive. So I started playing Yakuza 0 during the quarantine back in September, I think, last August. And right now I just started playing Yakuza 5, which means it's my 6th game of Yakuza, and I just can't really stop playing them. They are long. Yakuza 0 alone I put definitely about 100 hours into it. Most of them not really in actual like evolving the story, but just enjoying the city and what the game has to offer. Okay, let's leave the arcade. I just wanted to show that you can actually join the arcade. Just to give a little bit more of context on the Yakuza 0 scenario here. So the game, as I said, is late 80s in the Japanese history. And at that time, economically speaking, Japan was going through what they called a bubble economy, which was a very prosperous era for Japanese people, and also, of course, for the Japanese mafia, the Yakuza. And the game portrays this excess of money in different ways, and we're about to see one of them, because I could notice through indexical storytelling, through an indexical approach, that someone wants to get a fight with me, but I just need to find them. I think up here, yeah. So let's fight these guys, because then I can show you one way that they represent in the game environment. One way that they represent in the game environment this bubble economy. Because it's not just about telling the player that, okay, we have this bubble economy going on, it's that scenario, which is very important in the Japanese history. But how can we show the player that it was really a time of riches, where everyone would carry around a good amount of money? Well, maybe by making the guys you fight drop money everywhere. Also, you might notice that there is this guy helping me fight the bad guys. So he's a friend, well, he's actually a security guy that I hired for my company. And when I'm fighting nearby him, he just joins the fight to help me out. And this happens as well in other games where citizens, people from the city that you made friends with, can help you fight these battles. So one of the ways that they show this bubble economy is just through this ridiculous amount of cash flow that just flies off from the pockets of the people you're beating up. Also, when you open the inventory and etc., you notice that if you want to increase your abilities, the way to do it is by actually investing in yourself. And that is one of the first things you learn in the game. So if you started yesterday, you probably came across this, that you just come across this guy and he tells you, oh, you should invest in yourself. Use the money to invest in yourself, which is an interesting idea because that's how you actually evolve your character. Here in these nodes, you actually use money to make yourself stronger, make yourself better, which ties well with this idea of the bubble economy and just how much money was being circulated in Japan at the time, which sometimes you didn't know what to do with. So this is one way they show it. Another way they show it, and that I find it's more relevant and more interesting to our theme today of environmental storytelling, is through people that are trying to get cabs at night, and they're just flexing a lot of money and showing a lot of money to the taxi drivers, because then the taxi drivers would stop for you if they could see that you had a lot of money and all that. Okay, so one of the things that the readings of this week mention is the idea of indexical storytelling. And indexical storytelling are basically different elements that tell us, the player, a bit of the history of that game world, or that indicate to the player some things that we are able to do, or that we should do, or maybe we should avoid as well. So there are different aspects of this indexical storytelling that we can see here in the Yakuza franchise. One of them is that, so you see these guys running after me, let me run away from them a bit, but you see these bubbles of black with a pink border around, which usually means that enemies are coming towards you. Yes, I managed to escape them because I don't want to fight all the time. But there are also other interesting elements. If you open the map, so you have the map of the city, and each element here will tell the player what it is. So you see the on the side there, so these are the eateries, these are stores, these are entertainment related places, right? So you kind of can tell from the color or from the symbols what these places will be, even when you just started the game, and etc. So the game has a little bit of everything. Now you might be noticing as well that this environment is quite well designed. Like the game space, the game world is very well designed. It's relatively big. It's not what we consider an open world game or a sandbox game, but I like to call it a contained open world or open neighborhood or something like that, which I personally prefer. I'm not a big fan of open world games where you can wander aimlessly, but I think here we have a contained world that has a lot of things to do. If I'm tired of beating up people, I can come here to match ball and just play bowling, or I can do pocket car racing, or I can play pool, darts. I can watch erotic videos, and the game really lets you do a lot of things. And it's soft erotic videos, guys. It's not super pornographic stuff. But one of the reasons why this scenario is so well developed is because it's actually based in a real location of Tokyo, in the city of Shinjuku, which is part of Tokyo. It's a district called Kabukicho, which is the entertainment district and the red light district of Tokyo. And a lot of the elements that you can see in that district, if you go to Tokyo, you can actually see here as well. One of them is this gate at the entrance. I can't really see from that side, but this gate at the entrance is very similar there. So if you actually go to Google Street View and just look for Kabukicho and you just walk around the map, you see that it's extremely similar. I was doing that just before the live stream today, just to double check, and you can see it's very similar. I'm walking to the corner here where you find a store called Don Quixote, which is a very famous store in Japan. And if you actually go to Kabukicho, there is a Don Quixote exactly 1 block away from the gate of the entrance there. So it is very faithful in terms of the layout of this part of the city. And also it captures the aura of this part of the real city of Kamurocho, by having the entertainment district and the red light district as well. Now another See, some more guys wanna fight, and this time I'm gonna let them come. Because there are other indications of how this city of Kamurocho is really a part of your gameplay. One of them is that a lot of things are breakable. So you can get items from the street and just use them to fight the guys. So the city also becomes a weapon to an extent that can be used against these guys, right? So if I get these, I can just beat them harder. And the same goes for other things in the city. Let me see if there's anything else here. I think I can get that bike. So you see that there's going to be a little shine, which then indicates to the player that that object is something you can grab, which again highlights an element of storytelling and indexical storytelling. It gives a guidance to the player of, okay, this object means something. You can try to do something with this particular object. Now there are two last things I want to show in Yakuza 0 before we move on to another part. And one of them is, sorry for the mild spoilers, is about the main plot of the Yakuza 0, which is a battle for a place they call the Empty Lot. So a lot of the plot is revolving around real estate and owning certain places, owning certain parts of the city by the Yakuza, by the Mafia. And one of them is the now called Empty Lot, which is this part over here of the city. So you see that it's very old and run down, and the idea is that they want to buy this place, destroy this place. Oh god, sorry, I got into a fight and I didn't want to. I'll just kill him quickly. So the idea that they want with this place is to just put everything down and construct a very big building on its place, right? And that revolves around a big change in the landscape of the city. And it's a change that actually comes into fruition. So we are part of this initial story of the Empty Lot and how several Yakuza factions were fighting to own this particular piece of land in the city. And in the future games, the place that this empty lot becomes really, really important in terms of the game's narrative, and also places that the character gets involved in a series of different stories, in a series of different issues. Yes, I'm very addicted to the game, so I think this is one of the few games that I can actually do a gameplay without worrying that I'm gonna die or something. Also, I'm quite overpowered right now. So that was one part that I want you guys to remember, because it's gonna be quite different in the future games. This is another part that tells a bit of story of both the real Tokyo and this fictional Kamurocho. So these outdoors you see here, these billboards you see here, if you go to this part in Google Maps, you can see it's exactly the same. They have all these idols here, and it's a parking lot, and it's been like this for a while. And another interesting point of the game is here, which is a part that doesn't exist in the real Tokyo. It's called the West Park, and it's a park where basically a lot of homeless people live, and it's again another of those city spaces that suffers major changes throughout the history of Yakuza. But it also gives us some interesting tips on how game designers can think about the game space and give hints to the players of what we can do in this game space. Right? So if I just run around here, so you see a lot of homeless people living here, and I can play games with them, particular kind of Japanese unique sort of gambling games. All these kind of houses is exactly, not houses, but this kind of place is exactly where you would see homeless people living in Japan. So this blue, kind of this blue thing that I don't know the name. And of course very poor houses. If you go to Japan and you see those, you can know that that's a place where a homeless person lives. So I can talk to several homeless people here and play different games with them, etc. And those are the only spaces where I don't have a rail here stopping me to get inside. And this is the only other place where this also happens, because at some point in the game this particular place becomes a hideout, becomes an important place as well for the player. But I just wanted to show you this area because it's one area that will see significant changes in future games as well. I'm gonna change games quickly now to Yakuza Kiwami 2. Okay, so Yakuza Kiwami 2. So a few things change from Yakuza 0 to Yakuza Kiwami 2. One thing that changes is the year that the game takes place. So the previous one is 1988, now we're talking about a game that is set in 2006. So we're talking about mid-2000s. So we can expect some considerable changes in what we see in the city from the 80s to the 2000s, which includes simple things like the inclusion of a mobile phone as something that the character owns. But it's not just that. Yakuza Kiwami 2 is also the most technically advanced Yakuza game. It was the last one to be released within the Kiryu saga. Therefore, it's the one that makes the best out of what PlayStation 4 has to offer. And we can notice that right away. Because one of the big changes to this game is that it's very seamless. Things work very differently. So here we have again Mr. Kazuma Kiryu, a bit older. And well, lots of things happen to this guy. He's older now. He's adopting, well, sort of adopting this little kid over here, but we'll leave her behind, because it's too annoying to go around town with her. So one thing you notice is that the game is more or less seamless in how it allows you to explore the city. We don't have an elevator scene, unfortunately, but we have a more vibrant version of Kamurocho. So this is that exactly same first street that you guys saw in Yakuza 0. The one that has the gate over there. But a few new things appear that are important to the story. We have Stardust over here, which is a host club that again becomes very important to our story. A couple streets down is where I used to have my real estate office that unfortunately I don't own anymore. But every time I start a new Yakuza game, I like to stop by just to see what the hell do they have there now. Which this time is, I don't know, they don't really have anything, which is quite sad. It changed a lot, so maybe it was more or less around here, but I just like revisiting some of the places. So you can see some Indexco storytelling there again, with guys coming after me, and these ones I can't really run from them because they are quite persistent. But even the flow into a fight is quite seamless in my opinion, which makes the city become more interesting. The police never comes, which is one of the mistakes of this game, is that no matter how many fights you get into, the population will come and they'll clap and they'll be very excited to see you fighting people. The police will never show up. So now when I get into a restaurant or something, so this happens, so I can get my food, which I need because I'm low on health, so I can get some nice food. Let's get some beer, some miso soup for an entry, an extra large beef ball and an extra plate of beef. Then you just eat something, it gives you some experience as well. So in every Yakuza game you can stop at restaurants and have food, but I quite like how it happens in this game, just because of how nicely it flows when I try to enter. And if I go into this store, I can come up here. So my presence as a character is known by the NPCs, like they understand I'm there. It might take them some time though, like here for example, if I just... Hello old man. Oh, hello lady, hello. So it takes them some time, but they will eventually react, and I can also just destroy the entire destroy the entire restaurant. Hello guys, leave, I don't want you here. Which is quite interesting. I think it makes the citizens to be a bit more alive. Here you see two NPCs that are exactly the same, which doesn't happen very often. But that was funny. So yeah, just kick them out. So that's interesting, right? Oops. That I think it shows not only technological refinement, but it increases the depth of storytelling. When the city reacts to you and you're not just standing there and nothing happens, I think that's quite interesting. That's quite powerful and something that games allow. Let's go to Theater Square and see how Theater Square is nowadays. So almost 20 years after the Yakuza 0. So this is Theater Square. They removed all the green, which is a sign of times, I guess, that they made it way more urban and boring, in my opinion. The theater here changed names. Now it's called Kamuro Theater. Before it was called the Koma Theater. Club Sega has evolved. So you see a different Sega branding, a different Sega brand design. And I can also go inside, play different games. I think I have Virtual on. I also have these ones here. I can go up here and play darts. Using Darts Live, which is if I'm not mistaken, is a real company. I can also play Virtual Fighter 2, so there are several games that can be played here. Including one that you play in the toilet. Yeah. So I'll have to play the one in the toilet just so you guys can see it. Because yes, the game really takes you into some intimate moments with your main character that then become a... Well, this one is just a peeing game. And this one is an easy one. All I have to do is press R2. The game also tells something like this little silly side game. I can only do it when my bladder is full, which means that I've been walking around for too long, I had maybe too many beers, I had too much food, and then, of course, eventually your character wants to go and pee. And I think that also adds a lot to the particularities of this game when it comes to its storytelling. Yes, what's happening is a normal reaction every time you play Yakuza. And I'm not even going to go into the very weird things. But Yakuza Kiwami 2, like I said before, in every Yakuza game since I played 0, every time I start a new Yakuza, the first thing I do is run around and see what changed. What has changed in this city, what is different, what can I do different. So now if I stand here in the theater square, and I turn this way and I look up, I see a skyscraper, which wasn't there before. And that skyscraper is called the Millennium Tower and stays where that empty lot from Yakuza 0 used to be. And becomes, of course, an important plot point in the story. So it's a big change we see here. We can, of course, get inside there. Let's see if I can outrun these guys. Yes. So you can actually go inside a little bit and see how this place looks like. Yeah, now he has like cool jumps and stuff, which you couldn't do it before. But yeah, this is the inside of the Millennium Tower, and this place is where that empty lot stayed before. And now it's this just huge skyscraper where a lot of things happen. A lot of the plot, especially in Yakuza 1 and 2, happens around this place. But also in future games, there is also some substantial plot points that will happen here. Another place that I mentioned that changed a lot in the city, and I was not surprised, I mean this one actually was a bit surprising, is the West Park, where the homeless people used to hang out. Here is the same, you can see it's the same. I wasn't fast enough to run away. But this parking lot with the billboards of idols, it looks the same. Oh god. Let's see if I have any fun weapons here. Oh yeah, I have a saw. Okay, so let's keep moving towards the West Park. So that place where they had the park is now also going into construction in what they call the Kamurocho Hills, which again is going to be a... Well, I actually still don't know what's going to be, because I'm playing currently Yakuza 5, and I think it's going to be the first time that I'll see this place fully built. So yeah, during Yakuza 3 and Yakuza 4, they were still building up this place. How do I get inside? Through the bathroom, which is a very weird way to get inside a place. But we can actually go and visit these construction areas, see how this construction area is going. There's also a mini game that happens in here, but we're not going to play. In Yakuza 3, there is a sequence that happens. You go up these blue stairs and have a big fight sequence that goes all the way up there. But yeah, this is where the homeless people used to stay, but now it's being taken by real estate, and more specifically by Yakuza real estate, and also making some changes in the city. If you go down here, you see the underworld of Kamurocho, which again is reminds us a lot of feudal times of Japan, for bad reasons, which you can see here. So this is an underground thing built by very bad people, and you see like women that you can hire for prostitution. There is an underground casino, there's an underground fighting coliseum. But this kind of scenario here, you can see that is reminiscent of historical Japan, feudal Japan, or even still during the times of World War, which then women would be displayed like this in prostitution houses. So what changes here in the Kiwami 2? First, it gives us a very seamless urban experience, mostly thanks to technological development and also a new game engine. This enhances what we call this spatial storytelling capacity of Yakuza, of this contained open world. But it doesn't remove from it the fact that Yakuza is still a linear game. It still has a story that you have to follow. The difference is you can take your time to actually get to the end of the story and just enjoy what the city has to offer. And the game offers several different side quests and etc. In this game also you form allies in the city that can help you fight different characters. You can also record your success that then becomes kind of a permanent record. For example, if you play an arcade game and you play it well, you can then save your name there. Or if you go to the karaoke place, you sing well, you save your name there. Which are again examples of indexical storytelling, of how the player can leave its mark, its history in this game world as well. Now I just want to show one last thing in this game, so let me try to get into a fight, but it has to be in a specific place. In the meantime, anyone has comments, questions, anything you want me to address? No guys, I don't want to fight you. Oh yeah, another thing that you can finally do in these games is use the vending machines, which again, like Boss, they are actual brands. So you can buy these items, they give you some in-game benefits, but it's fun to finally be able to use the Japanese famous vending machines. Sorry people, sorry. You see, it's a very lively city as well. Like there's a lot of people all the time. The city is really alive. You won't see me doing any side quests because this is post-game content and I've finished I think all the side quests. But as you go around, as in any game, you have the chance to get to do some side quests to help people in the city, and by doing that you create connections to these people as well. Some of these side quests will span different Yakuza games, and you see the future of these characters in different games, which is always quite exciting, I find. I wish that Yakuza had better writers than they actually have, their writers are not the best out there, and they have actually a lot of missed opportunities. Oh, here's a gang of guys. I need you. Come here. Come to me. Yes. Oh, here, come here. Okay, so something quite different that happens in this game. Ooh, nice. Stay here, lady. Stay here. So something different that can happen in this game is that like I can actually affect the places a bit more. So if I fight near a store, I can actually go inside the store and fight the guys. You also have these ones that it's people in the city that are just walking around and end up having you. Okay, but the interesting thing here, like, is you see I broke this store, right? And it's a store that I could go inside and eat something, but if I try to go in now, they will reply, how could you do that? Please stay away from my store. And they won't sell me food until like a while, until the store is restored and they forget that I was ever here. That is interesting. That is something that I find quite nice. There's also several different stores in the game that remain in the same place. Like this store is always here. It will eventually change name to an actual real donburi shop in Japan that's called Matsuya. We have Gindaku Highball that's here for 3 games. That is a real place as well. And you have some local aspects of this city of Kamurocho that just remain throughout the games. You see businesses that are definitely successful businesses like Smile Burger, because it's always been here, it never leaves this spot. But you also see places opening shop, closing shop. So it's a very dynamic city in this sense that things are always happening, and from one game to the other the layout of the city can change considerably as well. Just want to show you guys one area here. Yeah, sometimes you see people harassing people on the streets. You can fight them, you can stop them, or you can let them be. Oh, sorry. I'll fight them because I can't see people being bullied for nothing. Some more nice finishers. I'm too good for this word. Nah, not really. Okay, so this is just another little bit of this town that I find quite nice. It's called the Champion District. So it's an area that has some bars, it's nightlife, and it's just a place that reminds me a lot of Japan. So when I went to Japan, I could see all these like little alleyways. So it speaks to me in a kind of personal level, because I've been to places like this in Japan. That here is mostly a drinking area. You also have some that are more food related, so you see more seats on the outside. And it's just nice, because it's really a nice reproduction of how Japan, how Tokyo, and how this area of Tokyo really looks like. Okay, let's move to the last game. So moving to Yakuza 4. So in terms of Yakuza history, Yakuza 4 was actually released first for PlayStation 3, and the version we're seeing is the remastered version for PlayStation 4 and also PC now. So one thing that we immediately notice is there's a big visual downgrade from Yakuza 2 Kiwami, because Yakuza 4 did not receive the remake treatment, it was just remastered. And now I'll go a little bit more theoretical, as we just chill a little bit with this nice lounge sound. So we're inside this bar called New Serena. And this bar is also very important throughout all Yakuza games, and if you play all of them you understand why. That guy over there behind the counter has been your true friend since Yakuza 1, and here's some new guys that you kinda just met in this game. But why are we sitting here? Just wanna say a few things. So not only there was a visual downgrade, but also some interesting changes for Yakuza 4. It's the first game that has more protagonists. So you not only play as Kazuma Kiryu, but you also play as these other three guys here. So Saejima, Akiyama, and Tanimura, which are different characters that are also set in the same city. Oh, the adopted girl, she's in Okinawa now. Send her there, which is then explained better in Yakuza 3. But we have these three guys that we can play as them as well in this game. But the interesting aspect here is that when you have more characters in a game, that means that you have more experiences as well. You can experience the game in different ways. This happens of course through game mechanics, so each of them has a different fighting style. But most importantly, they experience the city, they leave the city of Kamurocho in different ways. And because of these different ways they experience the city, they explore different side stories, they meet different people, they build their own stories within that Kamurocho environment. And we as players, we are privileged that we can actually see and follow these 4 different stories and meet these 4 different views, 4 different perspectives of the same city. Right. So just for a change of scenario, let me choose one of the guys here. I'll get Tanimura, because then we can see a different aspect as well. Before I head out with Tanimura to explore places, I just want to say a few theoretical things. So first, there is this guy called Ifutuan. He's a Chinese geographer and philosopher and theorist, and he writes a lot about the concept of space and the concept of place. And he differentiates both of these concepts, which I find in a way that I find interesting. He says that space is very abstract. It's more abstract than a place. Space can be anything, place we can usually name it. So we can say that we are in the space of the university, but we are in the X building or in the office of someone. Are we in Kamurocho, but I'm in the place of Serena, which is the name of this bar. This guy will argue that what begins as this undifferentiated space becomes place as we get to know it better and endow it with value. So spaces are these environments that we do not add any value to it, that we do not give it any value, we do not provide it with any affection or emotion, and etc. He also connects place to ideas of security and stability, and spaces more related to threat, to openness, to freedom. And that is true in the idea of game space and game worlds. These empty big spaces are places you can just run around. Some more indexable storytelling going on here. Because this guy is a police officer, I can see that there's a drunken brawl reported in Theater Square, and as a police officer I can drop by and help resolve the situation. Which of course is a very peculiar way for the police to, well, not that our police doesn't hit people out of nowhere, but in this game that's how the police solves things, is through a good punching. So you can tell that the graphics are quite lame in comparison to the previous one, but the gameplay in essence is still the same. Oh, another good example of how like games help tell stories, but at the same time give some feedback to players on what we have to do, or just these kind of quick time events as well, just like pressing buttons and all that. Yeah, I miss fighting with Kiryu because he's definitely the best fighter out of all of them. There's way more guys than I thought this fight would have. See, now I just arrested the guy. You can also do that rather than just punch them. I didn't want to fight right now actually. So as I was saying, this author, he highlights the difference between space and place. And I think it's quite interesting in the case of Yakuza 4 when we think about the hideout. So the hideouts are places where these characters can find security and stability. It's where they can save their game, it's where they can recover their health and get less tired and be able to just keep going. So the hideouts are their place in this big savage city that is Kamurocho. Because while they are out and about, the space is a constant place of freedom where they can do anything, but it's also a constant space of threat where you can be faced by different enemies at all times. You never know when you get into a brawl. Sometimes it might be easy, sometimes it might be a difficult brawl as well. So if on one hand the city is a threat and it's portrayed as such for these characters, they still have these places that they trust, that they think is that they consider safe. And I want to show you where is Tanimura's hideout, Tanimura's place in the savage area of Kamurocho. Hopefully I won't get in any more fights till then, but no, get out, I don't want to fight, nope. Should have gotten the item that avoids fights, but I couldn't be bothered. Okay, so here is an interesting space here. So within this scenario of Kamurocho we have this area called Little Asia, where basically everyone that is not Japanese lives in the context of Yakuza games. So Chinese, Filipinos, Vietnamese, and etc. They are shunned by the Japanese society in this context here, and they live in this area that is quite run down. But Tanimura, he speaks different languages. He speaks Korean, he speaks Chinese, he speaks Japanese, and I think something else. He speaks Mandarin and Cantonese. Oh gosh, I haven't played this in a while, so I forgot where I have to go here. And because of that, he has a lot of friends within Little Asia. In Yakuza 4, he's actually the only character that can enter Little Asia. Any other character is forbidden entry to this area of the city. And this is also where his hideout is, which is this restaurant over here. So if I enter this hideout, it's a moment that you can breathe. And that is something that eFoot 1 will highlight, that the place is this place of security and stability. So amidst the threat of Kamurocho space, we can sit here and relax. I can save my game here just by pressing on this door. I can relieve memories, I can put things in my item box, and etc. It's a Chinese food restaurant. I think from what I remember it's like Sichuan restaurant. Maybe if there is anyone that can read Mandarin over there, you guys can tell better than I can. So this is Tanimura's place here. But the thing that I find different with this game and with these characters is that the reason why they do so much, that they get into so many fights, is not just out of a sense of we have to beat the bad guy, but all of them have the same discourse. We need to protect the city. We need to protect Kamurocho. This is the place we love. This is the place we care about. We want our city to remain in our control, in our hands, even though we're talking about Yakuza control a lot of the time. So what happens there is that the space of Kamurocho as just this geographical urban space, becomes also a place of affection for these characters. Over the course of the stories, of each of their stories, and especially of Kiryu's story that just spans more games, we see that they develop and demonstrate a very deep love, deep affection for the district of Kamurocho. It's one they want to protect because they care about the people, because they are emotionally attached to the different places, to the different little stores, little corners. And the goal of the developers of this game, I find, is that we players develop this same deep affective connection with the city of Kamurocho. Last week we saw that games can move us, right? Games can foster different emotions on us. They can create different experiences that will deeply touch us in terms of we can feel anger, we can feel guilt, we can feel sadness, we can feel happiness, we can feel a lot of things just by playing a game. And here we can also feel something for the city and its inhabitants. So sometimes it's not so much about the character. My first incursion with every Yakuza game is not about Kiryu. I'm always happy to see the guy again, but I'm mostly happy to just wander around Kamurocho and see what the city will offer to me this time. Which amazing stories are hidden over there, how much time can I spend just walking around and playing silly games and etc. It becomes a place of comfort, both for the characters but also for the players, where every time they come back to a Yakuza game and they get to Kamurocho, they feel a sense of familiarity. That's very good storytelling through environment, through the space. In fact, for me, it's one of the best examples of it, is that in the course of 7 different games, you're essentially walking around the same map without ever really getting bored of doing so. There are changes here and there, you actually explore different cities in different games, but Kamurocho is in all of them, and it's the central city in all of them. And that is quite powerful when you think about it. I don't know if you guys agree with me, or maybe you have different examples of games where the cities, where the space where you play the game also becomes emotional to you. You feel that you are effectively connected to these game spaces. I've been drawn to Yakuza in a way that I haven't been drawn to any game in a while. I think the last one was Mass Effect, so at least 8 years ago to 10 years ago was the last time that I felt this much of connection with a game like I do here. Yeah, some Pokemon remakes. Yeah, because Pokemon also kind of puts you back to like same locations over and over again. Yeah, when we see them remastered, when you see them reimagining to like these new graphics and etc., it's always something cool to look forward to. I started playing Final Fantasy VII like last weekend, and I'm very impressed with what they did with Midgar, and it's just really amazing the difference, of course, from a PlayStation 1 to a PlayStation 4, 5. So these cities mean a lot. I just really like running around Kamurocho. I don't need a map anymore, of course, to just run around the city. Like, I don't need to really open these maps much anymore. It's only if they are mentioning some different location that wasn't present in every game, and etc. But mostly, I can guide you around this fictional city very well by now because I've played it 5 times. I am currently on the 6th time that I'm going to explore Kamurocho as a game space. And that is very potent, that you can repeat this city so many times, and actually a lot of these places in the city are exactly the same without ever really feeling that it's dull. But of course they always try to do something new, and in Yakuza 4 not only you have new characters to play with, but you also have a vertical expansion of the city, both vertical up and vertical down. So let's go up the city a little bit. Now we can run around the rooftops of Kamurocho as well, which is quite nice. You don't really, and it's also another space that you won't have fights going on. Only very occasional fights that are scripted fights, but you won't have random fights going on here. So you can just go around these rooftops. They're a bit too empty for my liking. Like, I think they could have used it better. But they are still interesting as just kind of this place of respite, or just a place where you can chill from the rush of Kamurocho town. So let's leave this place. And they also verticalized it downwards. So you can also go underground, but not like in that weird casino way underground, but like just a proper underground mall that is super common in Japan as well, especially in train stations and etc. So you have this mall here now, which is just that. Oh, you can fight guys here as well. Oh, I forgot that. Okay, I didn't want to fight this time. So another interesting aspect when we talk about environmental storytelling and lexical storytelling is this. So after fights, you see that the guys that you fought, or at least the one you encountered, still remains there, gasping for his life, which is interesting, I find. And if I come back after a while, he might still be there. Sometimes he's gone. Another expansion they did is actually you can go down to the parking lot as well. So you have this interesting parking lot here where another set of things happen. You can also go to the sewers, but you need a different character to do that, which is Saejima. He can access the sewers as well. Just like towards a bit of a conclusion, I'd say, of this. The reason why I find this game interesting and relevant to think about in terms of environmental storytelling is because Kamurocho is this living game space. It changes with the player and because of the player as well. Because of that, Kamurocho can be considered a game character as much as Kazuma Kiryu is. Kamurocho is the protagonist of several Yakuza games. It's where things really happen. It's in this little street, Tenkaichi Street, where everything starts and where everything ends. This lively urban environment, it just creates this constant sense of familiarity for us. We are used to this big city. And then it's enhanced by these different visual cues, which of course make way more sense if you speak Japanese, or if you are from Japan, you can tell even more what these cues are. Because I've been to Japan for a while, I was luckily quite easily able to tell what some signs were telling me. I also speak a bit of Japanese, which helps. But I could connect to this place in a different way because of that. Even the store that we see at the end of the road here, Matsuya, I've had food there several times when I was in Japan because it's cheap and good, like almost every food in Japan. So Matsuya over there at the back is an interesting place. So you have all these visual cues that are quite interesting. So they gain even more significance. If you've ever been to Japan, if you are Japanese, you have even more significance of these indexical elements, these signs, these symbols that appear in Yakuza games. There's also what I would call a multi-layered environmental storytelling that happens here. There is the storytelling that environment tells in the game that was then designed by people. So the one that was the coded game, we can say, is the one that was designed and coded by the people at Ryuga Gotoku and Sega, and they created this game in the way it's supposed to be. They created Kamurocho in this environment that tells a story. But there's also another story that is created by the player of Yakuza. Because you can just speed run through Yakuza, making just the main story thing. You can play the main story and the sub-stories, or you can simply get lost in Kamurocho and spend hours playing bowling, playing baseball, hitting on girls on cabaret clubs. Depending on the game, you might be involved in pocket racing. Depending on the game, you may play golf. You can go fishing. There's so many different mini games that you can do in this universe of Yakuza that you can just spend so many hours there. I'm not joking that in Yakuza 0 I have about 120 hours, whereas the main story can probably be solved in about 25-30 hours. I spend most of my 120 hours playing this mini game where you manage a cabaret club. It was just so much fun. I can go back to it maybe if someone wants to see it. And I spent too much time doing just that. And my experience of Yakuza and the environment and the city of Kamurocho is very much affected by this relationship that I developed, not just with the characters, but with the city itself. I just feel comfortable every time I play Yakuza because I know exactly where I'm going, I know what to expect, I know the streets, I don't get lost on those streets, etc. And I also think there's a third one, a third kind of environmental storytelling in place that combines my exploration of real Tokyo, of the real area of Kabukicho, which is the one that Kamurocho is based on. I've been to Kabukicho, I've been to these places, I've seen the actual theater square. It's the one where you see the statue of the face of Godzilla, actually. And when I went there, they were having a Brazilian market near that place, which then evokes my emotions even more, and my connection to that place even more. So I combine that story of exploring Tokyo with the several different explorations of this beautiful place of Kamurocho that is quite similar. And in a way, for me, it feels that I'm returning to Japan every time I play Yakuza. And it's an opportunity in times like we are living right now where we can't really travel anywhere, that I can still explore with so much depth a different city. And games really allow you to do that. Games are really excel in the idea that spaces tell stories, and it's through the exploration of space that a game can really come to fruition, especially a narrative-based game. So that is what I would say a kind of experiential play. So we have three types of play going on. The game that is coded, so you have the coded gameplay. You have the story building gameplay, that is the story that you build yourself alongside the story that was created by the code. And you also have this experiential game that can build up on your personal experiences in terms of places you've been to, or just the moment in life that you're living and how the game helps you go through that. Because it's a game that I got addicted to, a series I got addicted to through the quarantine, I can definitely and safely say that it's thanks to Kamurocho that I'm in a good mental place today. So if we connect everything we've discussed so far, definitely it's a game that helps with my mental health because it gives me a sense of stability. It's a place that I go to that I know what's going to happen. I can just go around beating random guys, I can stop at the karaoke and sing some music and etc. And that is just really a lot of fun. This has been too long, but it's been great. Thanks everyone that is still here despite me babbling for too long. For my students, I'll have an edited version of this that will be less time consuming, I guess, and I might add some extra information. But those of you that were here, thanks a lot. Just makes it better than me talking to I don't know who or to no one. I hope you enjoyed this. Thanks for joining, guys, and I hope you enjoyed. It's the first time that I actually do this thing of live streaming and talking about things at the same time, and goddamn is hard.